Hello, everyone, and welcome to Build Your Brand. Today, we are doing one of 3 live streams with a very special subject, and that is how to do live streams. And I've brought in 3 amazing professionals who do wonderful live streams. And our first one on deck, I'm super excited, is Jan. He joins us all the way from not in the USA right now. And he will be talking a little bit about how he leverages live streams and then, of course, how he uses one of my favorite products, Ecamm. This is a great time to say thank you to Ecamm for sponsoring this. We are so excited to have you on all of our live streams. Jan, could you introduce yourself and tell the audience a little bit about what it is that you do?
Sure. My name is Jan Keck. I'm based in Toronto, Canada right now, and I just shared with Goldie I'm moving to Germany, which is where I'm originally from, next year. So yeah, location the next few months is going to be a fun thing to talk about. But my mission in life is to help people feel less alone, because I feel like there's so many opportunities to make people feel like they belong, feel more connected to each other. And even if you're surrounded by lots of people all the time, doesn't mean that you experience loneliness every once in a while. And the last few years, I focused a lot of my energy not just creating experiences for people to experience that, but also teaching other facilitators and trainers how to create those spaces where I'm kind of jokingly saying where we can engineer those magical human moments to happen, where in a virtual sense you forget that you're looking at a camera, that you're looking at a screen, because you feel so connected with the other people. So that's been kind of my main focus right now, and I built a whole community of people that do that work, and I'm really excited about where things are going.
I think that's so great that you're working on the idea of anti-loneliness, right? And I think that's something that a lot of us have struggled through and a lot of us have faced, especially over the last year. And it's really nice to think about how we can be better, genuinely connected over things like live streams and over having these conversations with each other digitally. I want to get a little bit into the nuts and bolts of what it is that you do when you are thinking about how to connect with people more authentically. So, what is one way that you've found that's been effective when you're doing live streams to talk with people? And really quickly, I'm going to interrupt myself and say, everyone, thank you for tuning in. Feel free to say hi, drop in your questions, and also feel free to say where you're from. So back to the question I was asking, Jan, how do you think about really engaging authentically?
Yeah, so we were chatting a bit before we went live that most of my work is actually not talking to a camera without any audience or anybody listening. I spend a lot of my time on Zoom using Ecamm's virtual camera feature, so I can actually use all the effects and tricks that we'll probably talk about in a moment to broadcast them to Zoom, so then I can have the gallery view and I can see people's reactions. And so a lot of my work is in that, and then I still do some of the details or experiences on YouTube. I actually stream a lot on YouTube, going through different tutorials and everything. Just curious, I see a black screen on my end. There we go. Now I got you back. I want to make sure that we're still here.
A little technical difficulty.
Well, so that's the fun thing that I actually teach all of my students is something's always going to go wrong, and the best lesson you can learn from it is know your plan B and just stay calm and figure it out. Because yeah, I've had many times where I know microphones stop working, external monitors start turning off, screen share is not working, and I had to quickly figure out what to do. And it's, I think, that skill that helps you. Going back to connecting with people, like, they don't want you to be perfect, they want you to be human. Like, we've all had times where mistakes happened, and if you just acknowledge it, then you're connecting a lot more.
So in case anybody's wondering what's happening behind the scenes, in case it looks like I'm not directly looking at camera, which I'm doing right now, it's because, and I'm sure Jan is also familiar with this, running multiple programs at the same time while keeping track of the chat windows, and making sure that I'm seeing all the wonderful and amazing comments from everyone. So in case you ever see someone who's doing a live stream looking down or to the side or wherever they're looking, it's not even necessarily that they're doing something else and they're not on their computer, but they're probably looking at comments or other things. So I'm going to go ahead, Jan, and put you as solo on this stream because I want you to show the audience some of the cool stuff that you've been working on in Ecamm.
Yeah. So one of the things that I do a lot in my workshops and trainings is sharing slides. And if you're a speaker, if you're a presenter, if you run workshops, you probably do that as well. And I hope that you've already removed all of the text from your slides so people are not just reading what you're saying, but you want what you're saying be supported by the slides. So I actually have 3 different setups that I kind of switch between when I'm presenting, because this is, for example, one of them. And I have a little activity that I have on my screen here, where I'm in this little circle down here instead of in the top corner, really small, which is what usually happens when I screen share in Zoom. But then sometimes I want to be still having a presence on screen and not be so small in the corner. So that's what I created this kind of view for. And this way I can still connect with my participants, with my audience. I'm still visible. You can see my facial reactions, my gestures, but you can also see the text that is on the screen right next to me. So usually when I'm presenting, there's going to be a mix of switching from one thing to the next. I'm actually using my iPad right now to run a keynote presentation that I kind of can flip through. So you can see all of those things animate. But then when I want to connect with my audience again, that's where I will remove the slides. And like Goldie was saying, I'll make eye contact with the camera, because that's the one thing that I think is the hardest to do when we're facilitating and doing things virtually, is when you're looking at the screen, you're not making eye contact. And there's some research that shows that when somebody doesn't make eye contact with you, they're less trustworthy, less likable, and you also find them less intelligent. So there's a real benefit of reminding myself, okay, let's look at the camera so my audience knows that I'm connecting with them, I'm actually making eye contact with them, rather than looking somewhere else. So because I have slides and notes, it's kind of going to my slides, going to my notes, going back to the camera, that kind of triangle that I'm bouncing around.
And it's so helpful to have a second screen, especially when you're a presenter. In fact, let's talk about that. Jan, you're a little bit like me in that you are a professional presenter. You do this for a living. You talk on camera. You educate, entertain, and hopefully inspire folks around the world. When you are thinking about doing live streams and you're thinking about your audience and all that beautiful stuff, how does something like Ecamm also help you do that even further?
So the like what I use most in my live streams is Ecamm and a Stream Deck, and I'm probably sure that the people who are watching this have either heard of Stream Deck or maybe seen one. I'm just going to hold mine up and hopefully don't pull out the cable. But it's this device, oh, my cable is too short, that has a bunch of buttons that you can program. So I spend a lot of my time thinking of, before I go live, okay, what are the things that I need? What are the different effects and things that I want to show, so I can have everything programmed so I can quickly switch from the presentation. Whoops, now I'm
Here,
not.
I will do this.
No, you can see it. There we go. So I can quickly switch from that without necessarily having to look down or do a lot of things. And then there are some things that I love to do to just spice things up, to make it visually more engaging, because just looking at a person,
make you solo again so you can do it.
Yeah, just looking at a person for a long time gets boring really quickly. So I like to spice things up. If I'm doing something more interactive and I'm doing a quiz, I created these fun little animations and sound effects to make sure that I can keep people's attention on screen a little bit longer. And yeah, I started getting a little bit crazy with that. But then when I'm designing a speech or a talk, I actually script out a lot of it. It's almost like storyboarding my speech. So compared to doing things in person, I actually spent way more time preparing for a live stream, because you need to make sure that you have everything ready at the touch of a button.
Absolutely. So I think it's very, very helpful to be over prepared, if possible, for live streams, especially if you're presenting to a large group of people, because things, like you said before, can go wrong. In fact, I think it's always fun to ask this question: what is something that you've learned from doing so many live streams?
Ooh, that is a good question. Aside from what I shared earlier, to always have a backup plan, ideally a backup device if it's something really important. Like if you're speaking at a conference and suddenly, I know, your computer that you're using fails, can you still use your phone as a backup device and log in and continue? So always having that as a backup. And the other thing is, and that's the reason why I probably love live streaming so much more than pre-recording content and then editing it. Like I actually used to work in video production for 10 years, and I've done a lot of editing for my own videos and for clients' videos, and it just takes a long time. And also, when you know that you're recording for the edit, you're going to repeat it, repeat it, repeat it until it's perfect. So there's a lot of you try to make it perfect, and you waste a lot of time. So when you live stream, just going with the flow, and when you mispronounce a word, you just acknowledge it, you continue, you make that part of the live stream. And I think that's what's so much more relatable than, again.
Yep. And I think that it is really relatable to make a mistake. Now, for those of you that literally just saw a black screen of death again, I just figured it out. It's because I made my own graphics for this particular live stream that I tested out, and I guess I didn't let them run all the way through, but I think I included a black screen of death in my graphics run. So in case you're seeing that, that's live. This is a very live stream. And it is so helpful that when you have a mistake like this, to just acknowledge it and move on. And for those of you asking in the audience, we are using right now Ecamm to do all of these really cool and interesting graphics, to basically have something like this cool lower third that you can drop in. I'm pausing it right here so everyone can see both of our names, and also using to get it across multiple platforms, Restream. So using a really fun combo of two different kinds of compatible software. So I just asked you what it is that you learned from doing live streams, and you already gave us something that you tell a lot of people to think about when they're creating content. Can you give the audience another piece of helpful advice when, say, they are just starting out with doing their Zooms or doing their Ecamm content or doing whatever live stream content that they're doing?
I think making sure you know where you're going, because it's very easy to just click the go live button and then try to figure it out, and you might ramble on and do really long tangents. Unless you already have an audience, you might not have anybody watching for the first few minutes. So I remember my very, very first live stream that I did on Periscope when that just came out. And I thought, oh, wouldn't it be cool if I did a Q&A and ask me anything? So I said, I'm going live, ask me anything. And then I went live and nobody was watching, and I didn't have any questions, and I didn't have anything prepared. So it was just me looking at the camera, thinking of, wow, there's nobody watching. I don't have any questions. I don't know what to talk about. So now I kind of do the opposite. Even if I did a Q&A call, a Q&A session, I will think of some questions that are probably likely for people to have and start answering those until there's people showing up live, until they start to engage and maybe get the courage to submit a question. So even looking at the chat here, seeing a few people are watching, like we've been having a conversation for a couple minutes, and probably just by us talking, you get a question based on what we're sharing.
Absolutely.
So it's probably a lot easier now to jump in.
And now I see that we have a question, so I'm going to throw this question out there. So from Princess Green from Oxford, UK. Excited to see this live today. Ask Deep Questions sounds fantastic. Will there be a recording? Yes, there will be a recording of this. You'll be able to watch this VOD later, either here on LinkedIn or on YouTube. So feel free to check it out in full later. And this is a great time to ask you about Ask Deep Questions. What is that?
Right. So Ask Deep Questions is something that started as a deck of cards, and I can actually hold those up and show you. It's a deck of cards with 3 different categories of questions. There's curious questions. This is actually one of my most favorite questions in the world that I like to ask people that I'm just meeting. What does the word home mean to you? Then there's brave questions, and at the end there's vulnerable questions. And the idea is that those questions will help you get beyond small talk and really connect with someone. Because we often get stuck with just talking about the weather and talking about, I don't know, have you watched the game on the weekend and what are you doing next weekend? Often go deeper than that surface level talk. And so I created these cards that became it's a physical product that I've been shipping to all over the world, and it has also become a tool for people who lead workshops in person to use those as icebreakers and conversation starters. But now Ask Deep Questions is much bigger because it's also the name of my company. It's basically everything that I do to help people feel less alone. All the training that I do is under that umbrella, and the goal is get away from small talk. Let's actually get to know each other. Let's be more vulnerable with each other, because that's there's a quote in the back of the box. I'll actually see if I can hold that up. Sometimes has a bit trouble focusing.
There you go.
Relationships travel at the speed of vulnerability. Like, you could see the same coworker, the same person every single day, and if you only do small talk, you still don't really know that person. So once we take the step, have the courage to have these more vulnerable conversations, that's where the real connection happens.
Amazing. And so I love this project and this company because I actually recently did a project called 100 Good Questions, where I asked 100 good questions. I think there is one of the signs of empathy in others is asking questions, because asking questions requires you to listen to the answers.
Yeah, there's so much amazing things about asking good questions, but also being present in a conversation and really listening. That has been the one topic that I've talked the most about on virtual stages and events, is how can we, while we can't make eye contact at the same time, while we have to use or had to use technology for the last year to connect with each other, how can we still be present in a conversation, not be distracted and checking emails and surfing on social media while we have a call with a friend?
Yeah, I think we are so used to multitasking when we are online. But in the last year or so, a lot of us have been more online than normal. So normally we would be, say, out with friends or coworkers in person, and being able to have these beautiful conversations in person where we can't necessarily be on our phones while we're having these conversations in person, but definitely online it makes it a lot easier for you to be distracted by multiple things. I know that for me, one of the things that I try to do is, first of all, I turn all notifications off. So while we're on this live stream right now, I have all my notifications off, and I try to make sure that I have as few windows open as possible, because I think windows are such a distraction when you see a notification pop up and then you see 10, 20, 30, 40 notifications pop up over the course of giving a presentation or just having one of these very cool live stream talks. What do you think, Jan?
I think this is a great thing to even keep in mind when you're live streaming. You don't want to be getting interrupted when you're doing your live stream. So I'll actually show you something that I used to do in person. I I used to have my participants create these cell phone sleeping bags out of padded envelopes, and we would just take our phone, and at the beginning of the event, we would seal it in there, tape it up so we are not distracted. Now we can't really turn off our technology anymore, so I still keep this on the side of my desk, so I can put my phone in there when I need to have like this focus time. So not just turning off the distractions, but actually removing it from the site, like putting it in a drawer or in another room, will help you stay more focused and less distracted.
Yes, and I think one of the things that to go a little off track, because this is literally a live stream about live streaming, but I think it is so helpful to be offline when you can, and to minimize distractions when you can, when you're online, so that way you can focus on what it is you're doing. Like right now, I'm having a delightful conversation about live streaming and thinking about better ways to be a presenter when you live stream. So I want to leave with one last piece of advice. I know I've asked you already twice for pieces of advice, but I would love one more tiny little thing for everyone to take away when they are thinking about live streaming.
Ooh, I already gave away my best tips, so I'm not sure if I can find another one that is really hitting it home. Um, but I think engaging your audience, like if you are live streaming and you are at a point where you do have people watching, where you do have people commenting, acknowledging that. Like I remember when I joined the first live streams by my idols, like the people that I follow, the thought leaders in my industry or big YouTubers, and they would read out my name. Like I'm seeing, I think it's Carlos, John, Princess Green,
Mm-hmm.
somebody from the, okay, we talked about not being able to mispronounce, being able to pronounce things, but okay, Fenoke, Toastmasters Club, like people are watching and hearing your own name being read out by somebody that you follow makes you feel really special. So acknowledging that there is people watching when they are is a really good tip.
Yeah, I think it's really helpful. This is actually why I love to ask the question at the start of all of my live streams. Drop in the city that you're tuning in from, because first of all, it's just super interesting. But second of all, it feels like an easy way for someone on your live stream to comment. Maybe they feel really shy about commenting on your subject matter because they aren't an expert, but most people will be pretty happy to say what city or country they're tuning in from.
Yeah, and it's the same thing with like if you do any Zoom workshops or Zoom calls with groups, you want to make sure that you engage people right from the beginning. And one of my best tricks is as people are showing up in the gallery view is, hey Goldie, nice to see you. Thanks for turning on your camera. Like honestly, when somebody turns on their camera and you thank them for it, all the other people haven't turned on their camera yet. Suddenly you will see them turning on, and to me that's always a sign that people are engaged, they're ready to participate, and you want to set that culture from the beginning. And like you said, it's the same thing with YouTube comments or when you're live streaming.
Absolutely. So I think, Jan, we've asked all the questions, we've asked all the deep questions that we can, at least right now, about live streaming. For everyone that wants to find you on this big, beautiful internet, maybe hire you for a really fun Ask Deep Question session, where can they find you?
The easiest is if you go to askdeepquestions.com. That will actually redirect you to a page on my website where you can find out about the cards, about the trainings and workshops that I run, and all of the other things that I have not even created yet.
Wonderful. So we will all keep an eye out for that. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you to everybody in the audience for tuning in, whether you're watching this and have watched this live or you're watching the replay after. I hope that this has helped you think a little bit more about how to create effective live streams. And once again, thank you to the sponsor for today, Ecamm. Ecamm, you are great. I personally love using you, and I can do these really cool graphics that hopefully next time I won't mess up. So that's on me. But go ahead and also check out all of Jan's videos. There's some really cool graphics that he does in his content as well. Thank you, everyone, and I'll catch you next time on Build Your Brand.
Bye.
Bye.